Welcome back, everybody. Continuing to go down the path of making the shop more user friendly, trying to make things more compact, make things more just less of a footprint in the shop and stuff. When as far as I have the cloth rolls over here. It's only a 12-inch off the wall, holds all my rolls of fabric and vinyl and upholstery and everything, completely organized and out of the way. Um, so one of the things I wanted was a bigger workbench. I have workbenches all along the wall over there. I have all my tools and everything like that stored and stuff. And I like to, sit on my stool over there and work and do things. But when the project becomes larger, it typically comes over here into this bay, and I'm working on the floor. And I don't know about you, but I'm getting older and my knees don't like working on the floor. Even with knee pads and stuff like that, it's just not that much fun. So I wanted to build one of these, space saver workbenches that you stow up on the wall. I have gone down the YouTube rabbit hole of making things smaller, making better organized shop tools and benches and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of that stuff's really cool, really fun, great ideas and stuff. I don't have my woodworking necessarily shop, so some of those things are more woodworking oriented. But this is going to be a workbench that is going to be have doing metal work on, doing upholstery on. It's going to get used and abused. And so, but at the same time, I want, and it needs to be big. So at the same time, but it needs to be able to be put away in a smaller footprint. And, a 4x6 footprint on the wall that just had posters, perfect. That's perfect spot for me. It doesn't hang off the wall any further out than the fabric holder does, and so I can still pull a vehicle in and out of here. I always had stuff stored along the wall, so that doesn't change. Um, and so my whole thing when I built this was I had already done a bunch of research. I'd already watched a bunch of videos, and I'd seen one of the guys even come back and do an update on his, and had said that he was selling the plans and people were buying the plans, and that some people were complaining that it wasn't stable. It was a little bit too wobbly and stuff, and that's really cool of him to do. And so when I started to build mine, I didn't buy the plans. I just watched a bunch of videos and was able to determine what, for the most part, what they had done to build it. It's not super complicated. So I'm not making a video of how to build one of these things. I think there's enough videos out there of people doing it, so I'm not doing it. Sorry if that's what you're looking for. I'm showing you what I did different and why, um, based on what other people have said about these and stuff. So one of the main things was is that they said the legs were wobbly, and so when I was putting it together, this is only one bolt going through the side of the table structure and into the leg as the pivot point, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with the bolt being the hinge, and that's it. I mean, it's no big deal. But with it just being stabilized on one side, this lower side right here, the leg was able to flop back and forth. Now, when you put this cross beam across these two, it does stabilize it, but it still was like, that's a weak point to me. That's just not good enough. If I'm going to be putting a, big heavy chunk of metal up on this thing, a car rear end or, whatever, I want this thing to be stable. I don't want it to be, splitting out this beam here because it's too much weight and now it's kind of rocking. So I put in this simple little block here from the scrap of the project, and I screwed in leg bolts coming this direction through, two of them, pre-drilled them, and I also ran the grain this way so that when the screws goes through, it pulls the grain together. Wood always wants to split along the grain. So with the grain, if the grain was going this way and I screwed through it, it still could split and fall apart. With the grain, with the screws going through this way, it should pull those grain together and hold them tight. And if it does split, even if it does crack here, those two leg bolts are on either side of this bolt, and it still will hold the wood together. I also saw where guys have glued the tabletop down to the table, and I didn't do that. I want to be able to change out the tabletop if I ever damage this so bad that the surface is just not workable. You know, unscrew it, throw that piece of plywood away, put a new piece of plywood on, rock and roll, and back in business. Um, the other thing is that I didn't want to add any more weight than I already had. Um, mine's pretty heavy. It's also because I used a 4x8 piece of plywood, and I only cut it shorter. I didn't cut it down. A lot of guys will cut them down. I've seen to like 3 feet and stuff, and that would only make it about this high, and that would be no big deal to put it up against the wall and reach it. This gets a little bit high. I can reach it. I can unlatch it, but when you're also trying to hold it and latch it, becomes a little bit awkward. And I saw another guy that built one that looked like it was a 4-foot one as well. And, he's younger than me and stuff. And so, if he wants to sit there and struggle with it and whatever, that's fine. I don't want to be down here in the shop by myself, go to pull my table down or try to put it back up and, it slips, knocks me in the head, all that kind of crazy fun stuff. So I put a winch up at the top, and that just gives me the peace of mind. I can bring this thing up and down, put it away, bring it down, work on it, do whatever I need to do, put it away, and it's no big deal. It is always safe, and I still have the latches like everybody else does as a backup security of this thing falling off the wall. The winch is a load lock winch. It's a 1,500-pound AC winch. Plugs right in. It's just the cord just runs over and plugs into the plug I have on the ceiling. And, so this table is not 1,500 pounds. It's not even nowhere near that. So that winch is overkill, but it was a winch I could get right off the shelf, right in town, at a store, quick, easy, done. So to me, if you're wanting to build one of these things and you want to build it bigger and stuff, and you have the space and you can run a winch on it, build it as big as you want then, because as long as your wall is or whatever you want to do, if you want to put a winch on there, then you can just lift it up, put it away, and put it back down. Everybody seems to be doing the board going straight across. They pull the legs out and you do the board straight across. The one guy that did his update said people were complaining that it was too wobbly. Now, mine wobbles. I'm going to say right off the get-go, mine wobbles, but it's because of the casters. I had those casters. I just use those casters. I wanted a bigger wheel. I plan on rolling this thing outside and stuff, and then doing work outside with it and stuff like that. So I wanted a bigger wheel. So I used what I had. Now, if I had used the lever ones that lift the table off the ground and then roll it around, and then you flip them and they set the table back down on the ground, mine would be steady as could be. So the reason why and what I'm saying about that is the triangulation is these beams right here. Instead of having the beam going across, I have individual 45-degree angle cut pieces that are just on a pivot point here, come over here and meet in the center of the table, and then there's a latch. That's now latched into place. I even have little clips that slide right in there and hold that, so now that can't come undone. So as you're rolling around, and I take this outside, it's bouncing around, this little latch can't bounce around and come out. That's holding it in there. So it's locked. Now that one's locked. I also have on the wheels, I put in these little latch style and then it's got a clip that just goes in there as well. Same thing on this side. Now it's latched in. So I'm going to set this back a bit get a full view. And now it's just hanging. It's realistically up off of this wood right now because I pulled it up a little bit too tight the last time I pulled this up. But I can, unlatching it from the wall, I can get on my tiptoes and I can do that and everything, and that's not a big deal. But got my winch controller a little bit tangled up. But now with it undone, bring it on down. Put a heavy duty D-ring right in the center. It's got large bolts going through with big washers on the backside, so it can't rip that out. Table rolls around. As you can see, it's above my just above my waist. When I'm working, I'm not going to be hunching over. That's one thing I noticed about some workbenches and tables and stuff is they're kind of low, and so I don't want it that way. I want to be able to swing it into place and move it wherever I want to. I mean, that's the whole point of the rolling it around. But as far as wobbly, the legs are really solid. It doesn't really move anything because of those triangulated pieces underneath. So I'm really happy with those type of upgrades to it and making it more what I want and what I'm going to be using it for. I'm not knocking anybody out there that did what they did. I built mine very specific for what I want it for and as strong as I want it and stuff. This thing is, if you think about a folding table, they have a triangulated supports underneath of them. They don't have a straight across piece usually. One, it's so that they can be folded up and put away, and everything's there, and you don't have a loose pieces anywhere. So, to me, when I started looking at it, I was like, and seeing the problems that were complained about, I was like, well, why not build it like a folding table? And I was going to actually make a pivot point that folds like a folding table and stuff. But I was like, no, I don't. There's really no need. It just keep it simple. And a 45-degree board was all it needed, and just a locking mechanism to keep it stable. The other thing I did was I saw one of the guys do this, and and I commend him for thinking of it and stuff. I've seen a lot of guys just do the board on the wall. So they just put this board on the wall, and they wheeled it over here. It's this exactly the same height as the table, or just underneath, and then you just pivot it up, and then you latch it in. And I saw one guy put latches down here, and that at least is the bare minimum, I think. But I put a piece of plywood, same thing that this table is built out of, 3/4 inch plywood, screwed it on here, and I lifted it about a 1/2 inch, so it's got a nice lip all the way along there, and the table is this level, and as the winch pulls it over, it just slides right into the space right there, and it can't come back off of there. And the reason why that's important to me and stuff is that if you're going to be working in your shop and you bump, and that's up on the wall, and you bump into it. Now mine has the winch and the load lock, but if I didn't have that, and honestly I wasn't planning on putting the winch up when I did that, after I had tried to put it up the first time, I realized this is going to suck if I keep doing it this way. So that's when I went out and bought the winch. I already have another one of those winches over here on the floor, and that pulls in cars. And so I already knew about these winches and how good they work. And so I just ran and grabbed another one. But to me, if you have young kids running around in your garage, they're coming in, getting their bikes, they're getting stuff, whatever, and you only have that board, I would be really concerned about the kids knocking that off the wall. I know when I was a kid, I climbed anything and everything. It didn't matter what it was. I didn't understand what was in my parents' storages and stuff like that. I just we were just climbing whatever we could climb, get as high as you can all the time and stuff. And so to me, I would hate to see somebody have that on the wall, the kid go over, try to climb up on it, and pulls it off the edge. Because all you have up, all most people I've seen have is that those locks at the top that keep it from falling off that way. But if you don't have a lip down there or a lock down there of some type, and like the ones that have the latches at the bottom, like the top latches, those to me are still not good enough if you have kids, because the kids can sit there and play with those latches. And if you have kids, you know what I'm talking about. I don't need to explain that. It's just something you might need to think about and make sure that is if you're planning to do one of these things, I would do something more permanent than latches at the bottom. I would do a board like that, something permanent that can't be removed by a child. So anyways, enough of that. As far as just putting it back, simple, same thing. I got lines on my walls that give me a good indication that I'm safe and I'm not going to smash it into the air conditioning there. I'm not going to cover up my electrical panel on this side. Bring it back here. Oh. And then I stop right about there. It's if I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but it's basically angling off the wall just a little bit. I stop it right there, and then I come over here and I can push it the last little bit. But at the same time, the winch is holding it. So I don't have to worry that if I don't get that, if I miss that latch and I don't get it, it's not going to come back down on me if I thought that I got it latched. And then you can hit the button one more time and it pulls all the slack out of it. Now that was a little bit too much. Like I said, this winch could probably rip this thing apart if I wasn't, careful with it. But you can let it sit with some slack, or you can sit there with the slack taken out. I'm going to always kind of store it with the slack taken out, just because this thing has the load lock on it. I'm going to utilize it. I'm going to keep it load locked. Take the clips out, reverse the process. Coil everything up, put it away, it's done. Just like that. And to me, that is a huge, huge, huge space saver. I heard somebody somewhere said, well, I don't want to give up that wall space. It wasn't on my comments and stuff like that. I mean, if you guys want to leave comments, I don't care. I read all the comments. I try to respond to them and stuff, but feel free to leave them if you want to. But I was on somebody else's, he was responding to it, and I can't remember who it was, but he said that the person was upset about losing the wall space. And that one kind of made me just laugh, because I was like, really? Then, I mean, to me, the trade-off is it's just obvious. It's so worth it and stuff. So I would be curious if if you had shelves on the wall, or if you had something else and then you had to take them all down to do this and then you didn't realize, or maybe, okay, fine. But, the trade-off for me is completely worth it. I love the idea I'm glad they came up with the concept and they put it out there. And like I said, I'm not knocking anybody for the design or anything like that. I just felt like there was a few improvements you could do to make it far more stable, um, and more durable. I think too is the thing, is that I was going for durability because of what I'm planning to do with it. If you're not planning on doing heavy duty stuff on it and really reaming on it and taking it outside and off of over uneven surfaces and that kind of stuff, then you might not need to make those things. But to me, it's always when there's little simple things you can do that make it better, and it doesn't require that much more time, or in my case, really expense. The winch was expense, but all the latches, all the other stuff, the little blocks to stabilize the legs, that type of stuff, the 45-degree angle beam that I did in the center didn't cost me any more money. I didn't, it, the piece that would have been going straight across, that's what I made it out of. It's the same thing. So I hope this helps. If you guys are, watching this video, you most likely are thinking about building one, or you built one and you're trying to figure out how to make it better, and stuff. So hopefully this helps anybody out there. Like I said, I'm not trying to beat up on anybody that made one and did it differently. This is just what I did because of what I plan on doing with it. I hope you guys all have a good rest of your day, and I will be back on here again as soon as possible, posting more videos. I have some custom stuff I'm doing, metalwork wise, trying to get that video, edited more. The part itself isn't done yet, so I still got to work on the part. The table was part of the reason that I, was, or part of the reason why I was building the table was so I could utilize that and work on the part. That has to do with 67 through 72 Ford pickups. So if you're into the older pickups and stuff, I'm working on the 71 right now. I built the 67 and sold it on Bring a Trailer auction last summer. I think it was in August. Did a bunch of interior work on it and stuff like that. The videos are on the channel of that truck as well. So feel free to look at those if you're interested in some custom upholstery. I apologize, at the time that I was building that truck, I wasn't doing the YouTube channel. I was just taking pictures, and so most of that truck is slideshow stuff of what I did. There's some drive videos, there's some walk around videos of that truck, there's stuff like that, because that's when I started the YouTube channel. Bring a Trailer wants you to post videos, and so YouTube was the easiest way to get those videos uploaded and to their site. But after doing that, that's what kind of prompted me to start the YouTube channel. I already had the videos up. I already had some of the slideshows up so that the person, the people looking at the auction could, see all the work that was done. I'm one of those people that I'm going to do everything I can to make a good vehicle. I don't want to sell somebody something that I know I didn't do my best to try and make it, as best as I possibly could. Budget is always a huge issue. You're always running up against budget, and you're also running up against what the vehicle's worth. So, that's always a challenge. But anyways, that has nothing to do with the workbench thing that you guys tuned in for. But that just tells you a little bit about the channel and what I'm trying to do. Hopefully more videos will be coming soon. And like I said, you guys all have a good evening, rest of your day.